I read another book. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know, it's incredible. Yes, so I read another book. This book here, Restore 20 Self-Care Rituals to Reclaim Your Energy by The Essentialists. So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts, some things I wrote down while reading this book, and it's not really a book review, but I will tell you some things I liked about it, some things I didn't like. Yeah, let's just get into it. Okay. So I'm going to start off with some things I really liked about this book. Oh wait, actually let me find when I first wrote about it. I think it wasn't till chapter 3 that I wrote something down. Okay, yeah, here we are. Okay. So the thing I liked the most about this book is that it was really easy to read. Oh, I feel like the camera's kind of smudged. I'll be right back. Honestly looked fine. I didn't need to wipe it, but I did anyways. So yeah, let's get into it. I liked that this book was really easy to read. It made me want to keep reading it. What made it easy to read was that the chapters were really concise, really not short, but short enough that it didn't take a long time to get through one. And then at the end of each chapter, they sort of have like a list format of different things you can do, like different actions you can take, or different questions to ask yourself. But yeah, let's just get into the first thing I wrote. So the first thing I wrote was about chapter 3. And what was chapter 3 about? Let me check. I think it had to do with breathing. So let's see. So chapter 3 is called Renew and Refuel. Yeah, and it had to do with breath. Healing is every breath. And that's apparently by a quote from Cheech Natan. Not familiar with who that is, but yes, okay. So I wrote down a quote. It was on page 26. It says, "So the next time someone tells you to take a deep breath, smile and heed their wise advice." And I wrote this down. I'll just read actually. This stood out to me because it is important to remember. Sometimes being told to just breathe can feel condescending or dismissive, but breathing deeply is our body's best way to calm us down. It assures our body that we are not in danger, and then the panic and the anxiety will start to fade. Remembering to take a second to breathe is going to be essential, especially with the scary times we face ahead. The next thing I wrote down had to do with chapter 5. I think chapter 5 was on gratitude, and so I wrote, "Gratitude is the attitude that I choose to adopt." I think in another one of my videos, I'm not sure which video it was, but I talked about gratitude and I said gratitude is the attitude that I want to adopt. But I changed that because just wanting to be grateful and to have an attitude of gratitude isn't enough. I need to choose to do it, to actively put in the work, to be grateful. Let's see, did I write anything else? Oh, it did make me think of a Tinashe lyric. "What's the first thing that I think of when I wake up? Thank you for the sun. Now I best get my cake up." Because I really am so grateful for the sun. And I see the sun as a reminder to keep going. You know, the sun comes out every day. Even when it's cloudy, it's still there, you know? And so we just gotta keep showing up, even when we feel like we can't, especially when we feel like we can't. I also wrote, "Reading is incredible. It reminds me of the power of the mind." Okay, what else have I written about this book? Okay, so this is going to be my first critique of the book. It's a little white womany. um, and there was specifically the way they talked about breath work that sort of bothered me, irked me. Let me see if I can find it because I didn't like what they said. I think it was at the end of this. Okay, yes, this is it. Um, they said for a long time, deep, controlled breathing has been a key element of meditation, yoga, tai chi, and qigong. However, breathwork is now becoming a discipline in its own right, with deep breathing classes, one-to-one sessions, and apps dedicated to the practice. And this was just like, it kind of pissed me off. It was like, now that it's been colonized, now that it's mainstream in the Western world, all of a sudden it's its own discipline. Breathwork has always been a thing. And there are, I'm sure, I'm not too well versed in these areas, but I'm sure there are yogis and tai chi, qigong practitioners who only focus on breathwork. And I just didn't like the way they said that, because now it's become its own discipline in its own right, just because the Western world has caught on, and it just kind of stood out, as like I don't know, colonizer-y. Like I didn't like it. I said the part about breath work being its own thing now that it has been colonized. But what can you do? Anyways, what else did I write? Okay, the next chapter I wrote about was chapter 9. No. Yes, chapter 9 about patience. And this quote really stood out to me. That's on page 86. It says, I don't know why I opened the book because I wrote down the quote. We are living in a life of interruption, where we value entertainment over education. And this made me think about social media. And so I wrote, this made me think about the way media is changing, especially among younger generations. Feeds like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, they're constantly interrupting us. They're constantly bombarding us with new ideas. Like on some feeds, you can even see the next post before you've even scrolled from the one you're on. Social media, its goal now is to distract us, to placate us, instead of connect us. And it floods us with so much information that we don't have time to take it all in. We need to hold on to the magic power of our memory. Write things down. Talk to other people about things you've seen on social media. Don't just like it and scroll on. Yeah. I've been trying to do that a little bit more. Record, like I've written down sometimes a lot of the things I see, especially on TikTok. I think it's the social media that I use the most because I feel like it does give me the most education rather than just entertainment. Like when I go on Instagram, all I see is funny videos, and there's a time and place for that, and it's can be valuable. But I don't think I ever become informed about things via Instagram or learn things. Whereas on TikTok, sometimes I do, and I've been trying to write things down, and I have been doing a better job of that. Especially with things like political things that are happening or laws being proposed. Also just things some of our politicians are saying that are like really crazy. I need to write them down to remember that this actually happened before they wipe the internet of it, Yeah, I don't know what prompted me to write this, but I wrote, they want us scared and silent, referring to they as in, I don't know, our government or the wealthy, the ruling class or whatever. But anyways, another quote that I found from this chapter that I really, really liked was, remember, we are human beings, not human doings. And I'm going to see if I can find the context for this, because remember, we are human beings, not human doings. If we stop focusing on fast, instant results, we will have far greater success. Rome wasn't built in a day. Impatience is often a result of feeling out of control because you have overcommitted, overscheduled, and overwhelmed yourself. Yeah, I actually talked a little bit about this in one of my tea and tarot videos. A card came out that mentioned achievements, and I talked about how we need to focus less on achieving and more about how we feel about certain achievements or trying to achieve certain things. Like, what is the feeling we're looking for, rather than like, what is the thing I can do? What is the thing I can be known for? Because in our capitalistic society, there's always something more you can do. There's always a next level of achievement. And that drives us to feel worthless, or like it's never enough. And if we adopt that mindset as reality, we will never feel like enough. And yeah, that's why I really liked this. We are human beings. We're just here to be. We're not here to do. I mean, we are here to do things, but it's more important to be someone than it is to do something, if that makes any sense. Anyways, let's see. Okay, the next quote I have, page 141. So this is a lot further. Let me see what chapter this was in. Page 141. No. 7, 38, 39, 40, 41. Okay. So this was in the chapter about the senses, the 5 senses, and how tuning into them can be beneficial and can have, relaxing and grounding, effects on your body, your spirit, your energy. And yeah, I'll read you the quote here. It says, "This simple strategy, shifting from thinking to sensing, is the essential ingredient in nearly all meditation practices. Note that this is not a shift away from thinking. It is a shift towards sensing." So I read this and I thought, why do they feel the need to specify that information? And I said, I think it's because direction is important. The chapter on the 5 senses is really about focus. It's how we choose to direct our energy. And so this made me think about the Earth revolving around the sun. The Earth can't just stop, right? It can only move forward. And so I think we're just like the Earth. We can only move forward. We can only continue on. I wrote, just as the Earth cannot help but continue revolving around the sun, us as humans cannot help but continue existing, continue focusing. And I said, we can't take back our focus. We can't take back the time we spent thinking about certain things. But we can choose to redirect focus going forward. We have to keep experiencing life, no matter what, but we get to choose where we put our attention. Yeah. Okay. This is just another thing I wrote about the book. This sort of ties back to the breathwork moment. I said, this book was written by two white women in Australia for white women in Australia. Something that keeps coming up is an assumption of access, especially when I got to the chapter on food. We have to understand that not everybody has access to all the same things, especially like in most Western societies. We have a lot of luxuries that we don't think of as luxuries. Because one of the suggestions they gave was just order your groceries online to avoid buying extra things or being tempted by the chocolates or something like that. And I was like, just order it online? Like, that is not a universal tip. And yeah, I don't know. That's I guess some of the downsides, I guess, is that it's not a super universal book, but I don't think it was meant to be, you know? I'm sure it did very well with their target audience in Australia or whatever. And then I wrote here, I tend to talk a lot about the book's drawbacks, and I like to say that it's the Saturn in me that draws me to limitations and how things can be better. I also wrote that the nature chapter should have been earlier. Like, we didn't get to talking about nature until like chapter 13 or 14, somewhere later in the book. And I thought that should have been somewhere earlier, just because it's so important, especially in Western society, especially in the way a lot of us live our lives now. We're not outside. We're not connecting with the grass and the trees and the birds and the bees. Like, we're not experiencing the beauty that this world has to offer, and we need to be. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this next portion of my writing is based off of the questions they posed from the chapter on learning. Let me see if I can find those questions, just because I didn't write the questions, I only wrote my answers. Nature, learning, okay. So the first question is, what do you need to learn? I wrote that I need to learn how to use my skills to support myself, specifically financially. What do I want to learn? That's the next question. I want to learn how to grow food here in Puerto Rico. And then they also asked, what is the best way to learn? I said the best way to learn is to start doing things, to gain experience, to figure out what works and what doesn't. Yeah. The next quote I wrote down was from the chapter on boundaries. And this is a good quote. They said, "Remember, it is not your job to make someone else happy." And this hit me because I feel like for most of my life, even still now, I've been putting other people's desires and ideas for me ahead of what I actually want. And that's no way to live. So yeah, it's not your job to make someone else happy. Your only job is to make yourself happy. And you should be able to make other people happy by making yourself happy. That's how you are able to spread the most joy, is to find joy within yourself. Yeah, the next quote I think was from the last chapter. Yes, because it's on the very last page, page 200. It says, "Just start. just start doing something new, something to honor yourself. And I thought that was a great way to end the book, because even if you don't put in to practice all of the different suggestions that they made, if you just at least start to change maybe one thing, how you think about one thing or how you engage with one aspect of your life, you'll be able to see the differences it can make. Yeah, so I read another book, and it's only the start of February. So I'm setting a goal to read one book every month. The next book that I want to read is Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox. I'm pointing over here because I have it over there in my backpack. The reason I want to read it is because she wrote a second book, which I don't have yet, but I really want to get, called Witch in Darkness. And then I also have a book with me that I also want to read, Temples of the Sky by Deborah Holding, which is a book on the houses in astrology. I love astrology. And I started it already, and I want to finish it because, yeah, I like learning about stuff. Anyways, I went back, after I finished reading the book, I went back and I answered some of the questions that they have at the end of each chapter, that I hadn't done yet. And so I did it for the chapters regarding gratitude, technology, forgiveness, and dreams. And so that's going to be the last thing that I read to you guys. All of you wonderful, beautiful people on the other side of my phone screen. Okay, so gratitude. Let me see if I can find the questions, just because it's hard to read answers to questions without the questions themselves. What chapter was gratitude? Okay, I think I found it. Yes. Okay. Oh, but I didn't answer all of these questions. You know what? I'm just going to read it. So I wrote, for the chapter of gratitude, I wrote, I appreciate myself, my family, my friends. I am fortunate because of access to food, shelter, family, a support system, water, my education. I am incredibly fortunate, and it is imperative to remember. The next questions that I answered were about technology. I think the question was, what aspects do you like of technology? And I wrote specifically about TikTok, because I feel like that's the thing I use the most. It's the thing I use technology for the most. Yeah. I said I like TikTok for its ease of access to trending media and to news, trending media, and people's lived experiences. And I said I need to. The next question was, what limits have you set for yourself? And I said I need to set some and follow them, because I don't really enforce any limits on myself when it comes to consumption of media, and it's something I definitely should do. I have been using it a lot less, which is good. But I think maybe having a limit for myself would help in the long run, in order to prevent myself from falling back into habits where I would just, mindlessly scroll. Let's see. Oh, I said, I need to set and follow limits, because sometimes I use my desire to be informed as a reason to keep scrolling. And then the next question was, when was the last time you spent a day without technology? Or it's like, how comfortable are you? And I said, I'd like to think I'd be comfortable without technology for a day, but I haven't done that in a while. So that should be another goal of mine. Maybe I'll make it a video. I'll do no technology for the day, except I'd be using technology by filming the video. So is that cheating? I guess that would be cheating. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just write about it. What is technology? Because I was like, well, writing in a notebook is not technology. No, okay, anyways. The next one was about forgiveness, and this one I kind of wrote a lot, so I'm just going to read it. I think the question was, have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven others? And I wrote, I haven't forgiven myself and others. One of the downsides of being so Saturnian is that I hold on to things, especially pain. I can think I've forgiven someone, but the pain still resides in my body. I try not to hold grudges and give people grace and believe that we can change, but it's really hard for me to forget. I probably am fighting for my ego, trying to protect myself, but all I'm doing is preventing myself from new connections and experiences. On page 118, it reads, "It's about choosing peace and inner harmony over being right." I like to believe that I'm always right. Sometimes it's a joke, but it has serious implications. I can be very dismissive, and it's one of my least favorite qualities. Yeah. Okay, the last thing I wrote was about the chapter on dreams. And I think it said, what is your dream? Or what is one of your dreams? And I wrote that my biggest dream is to play my part in dismantling white supremacy, specifically by working to restore Puerto Rico's food sovereignty and free the island of colonization. It's quite a big task, I know. But I just want to do the best I can and start small, obviously, but I have big dreams, and that's not even, I have other dreams too that are completely unrelated. But that one I think is my biggest dream for my life. Anyways, another question was, I don't know, let me find out if, okay, it says, what do you want to chase and what do you want to achieve? And I said, I just want to help myself and those around me live a simpler, less stressful, more connected life. Yeah, that's it. Would I recommend this book? I actually would. Despite its drawbacks, I think it's really good. It has a lot of helpful advice. It has a lot of tangible things that you can do, that you can implement pretty easily. One of the things they mention in several chapters is to just take 3 deep breaths, maybe when you wake up or before you go to bed, or really any time you're feeling stressed. And I really liked that they stressed the importance of breath, because we all have to breathe. So just take life one breath at a time. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.